Hello. I just took a moment to get this to work. So hopefully, we're telling your followers that it started. So, of course, Instagram and every other type of technology always likes to change up and mix things, the functionality. So I am now currently live. Hello, someone has joined. So this is, as I mentioned yesterday or whenever it was, it feels like a lifetime ago, that I thought it might be fun to do a bit of a Q&A with some of your kind of biggest decorating and design dilemmas. So I have compiled a list. I actually got loads and loads of responses. And so what I've done is I've kind of collated them into topic areas because there was a lot of repetition. And so obviously these are things that people are struggling with. And hello from Finland. and so I also wanted to, where I could, just kind of grab a few notes so that it was helpful. And anyway, I'm going to get straight into it. So one of the big topics that many people were asking about was basically to do with decluttering. So see, these were some of the things that people said. Getting rid of stuff, clutter, decluttering and choosing pieces. Someone else said, I tried to keep it minimal, natural elements, neutrals and textures. My biggest design issue is a constant battle of stuff with my family, the shoes, socks, sweaters, books, papers, games, toys. Also keeping my own beautiful objects out to a minimum. Should I rotate? Someone else said, keeping things simple and clutter-free, but also cozy and inviting, struggling to get the combination right. And then someone else said, toy storage in the main living areas, particularly Lego, lots of Lego. So this was something that was coming up for a lot of different people. And I actually created this massive document. It was a bonus when I did my free training before my styling masterclass. And so this is something that, of course, like I'm always trying to do within my own home, but also trying to help people as well. And I read a lot, I listen to lots of podcasts. So, I'm kind of going from my own ideas and I'm picking up ideas from other people. I'm always going into other people's homes as part of my work. And I always ask lots and lots of questions. And obviously on my podcast, I interview people there as well. So these answers are a combination of all the different sources and research that I've done. So what I actually said in this decluttering bonus that I had created was, and I truly believe this, I read it and I was like, yes, this is so true. But I even need to remind myself of this. One of the best gifts that we can give to ourselves and our homes is to focus on what brings joy. The rest is a distraction from living our best lives. And I really believe this, that when we have stuff everywhere, then we can't see what we actually have. We can't see the stuff that's important in our lives. We can't see the things that actually bring us joy, that we love, that really resonate with us. And so I really believe in getting rid of all the stuff that doesn't bring you joy and focusing on the things that do. And a prime example of this is with children. I've got 4 young children, and I see this time and time again, that if you just have a room full of toys, for example, they actually get overwhelmed by it and they don't know what to play with. And it just becomes, they just can't see what they have. However, I really believe that with children, if you take away a whole heap of those toys, you just kind of go and put those in a cupboard and you only have a few things out and you rotate those things, that it's much easier for them to play with those things, and then they get excited by it because they can see what they have. And then likewise, every now and then, if you kind of rotate some things out, some things back in, then they get excited by it all over again. And they're like, oh, this thing is new, which it's not. It's just that they'd forgotten all about it and they get excited by it over again. The same thing works with adults. If we have got too much stuff out, we get overwhelmed by it and we can't even see what we own. So that is true with books, it's true with stuff in your kitchen, it's true with things in all sorts of areas of your home. So I'm a big believer in, getting rid of the things that you don't bring you joy and just focusing on those pieces that are really beautiful and that make you feel happy when you look at them, and really recognize the emotional response that you have to objects. So I'm a big believer in that. So in this bonus that I had created, these were some of the things that I had said. I'm just like picking out a few little pieces, and I just thought it might be helpful to share here. So the first was, we can focus, when the benefits of simplifying, we can focus on what's most important in our lives. We can gain control of how we spend our time, because of course, when you've got so much stuff out, then you spend all your time either cleaning it or sorting it or managing it in some way, so that the less you have, the less time you need to spend on it as well. So I think that's actually a huge benefit and bonus. And then I also believe that we can see and think clearly again, so that when your mind, I've kind of done lots of reading and research on this, that our brain can only make so many decisions. So when you're trying to get your brain to make lots and lots of decisions every single day, and like even little simple things like, where should I put this? Where does this live? When your brain is having to make all these decisions, you're getting fatigued, and you should be saving those decisions for the things that are most important in your life. So all those little things, it's just not helpful. So there are 7 questions that I often say to myself when I'm kind of going through this decluttering phase, or, and I go through cycles and seasons of it, and every now and then I'll have like a good go at a particular space. I mean, I actually am in a room that I had to choose the quietest room with no distractions, and we kind of gave a big declutter to this, well, I did, a few months ago, and it felt so good. And to be honest, I've still got some way to go, but this is the 7 questions that I ask myself in relation to my stuff, and I do this with other areas of the space too, so you might find it helpful. So the 7 questions are: do I love it? Do I need it? Do I use it? Because in particular, I would suggest that in your kitchen, particularly open your kitchen drawers and your cupboards, you've probably got so many things in there that you don't actually use, that you haven't used in months, if not years. If you're not using it, get rid of it. It's just taking up space. Every time you see it, your brain has to register that it's seeing it. And again, you're just fatiguing yourself with all the stuff that you're seeing that you're not actually using. Question 4 is, would someone else get more use out of it? And this is something that's actually helped me a lot, because I struggle sometimes with letting go of certain things, and I can kind of get a little bit emotionally connected to things. But when I know that somebody else will actually get more use or utility or joy out of it, then I'm actually happy to let go. So this is something that I found with children's clothing, and I think, should I hold on to them? Should I pass them down to my children's children, and all of these kind of things? And I think, someone else can actually get more use out of it today. So I'm actually prefer to do that and move on. And then question 5 is it more of a burden than an aid or a help? So sometimes, again, like, we can hold on to things and it's just something that is becoming a burden to us. This might be, if we've got, this is something I've had to work through, is like stacks of magazines or too many books. If you're just moving them from like one room to another or one house to another, and you're actually not using them, then it gets to the point where they become more of a burden than a help to you. Would I buy it again? And this is a big one. So there's this whole study on like sunk cost bias and how we invest more value in something because we've already spent money on it. But if you wouldn't buy it again, then really, why have you got it? So that's something that I would say to you, and to really think about that. And then the 7th question is, do I have an abundance or scarcity mindset? And basically this idea of, am I holding on to it because I spent money on it? So that kind of fear of like, I know, and I hear this so often, that people really worry about, well, I don't want to have to go and buy that again, or, they're sort of holding on to it because, not because they use it or they love it, because they sort of feel like, well, all these scenarios that they go through their head, really, you're holding on to it because of a fear, and you should just let it go. Anyway, so there's some tips on decluttering, and I hope that that helps you. I mean, there were some things, like there was a question about toy storage. I mean, you can't go past baskets. Nice baskets can solve so many of your storage problems, but I would really, really say to you to be mindful that you just don't have stuff for the sake of having it, to kind of get rid of the things that you don't really need. So I think that that is really important in terms of, you know, with your home and what you do. All right, so the next kind of big clump of problems that people were having was related to decisions. So these were some of the, I see Melinda says that's such a hard one. The money spent, then you feel it was wasted. And it is, but then you've got to think about the emotional investment and the fatigue and all of that that goes into just holding on to it because you're worrying about that. And when you actually let go of it, it is so freeing. And then, you know, when you, after you've done it, you kind of think, why did I hold on to it for so long? And I've had that experience, and it's just that feeling of letting go of something is such a release, and I actually think that that is worth more than the object itself. And again, going back to that thing of, would somebody else get more benefit from it? So I find it helpful to remind myself that somebody else can use this for their child, or somebody else can use this in their home. And just knowing that actually makes me feel really good. And so that I don't then worry about the money that I've spent on it. All right, so like I said, the next big sort of set of questions related to decisions. So these were some of the ones that came up. Making decisions, knowing where to start. I have so many inspiration photos, but where to actually start bringing it to life. Order ideas, too many choices, overwhelmed, where to even start, making a decision, being certain a decision is right, being safe in decisions and not taking a risk, making decisions. So these all came up so often, this sort of fear about making decisions and not knowing if you're doing the right thing. And some other people specifically use the words fear, a fear of commitment, perfectionism, and fear of making mistakes, the perfect storm for procrastination, which often this is what happens, is that people get so fearful of making the wrong decision that they actually make no decision and they end up living in limbo. And I think that is such a disservice to yourself and your life, to just be living in this limbo that you're not making progress, you're not making your home the best that it can be, and you're not getting anywhere. You know, you're thinking, oh, I don't know what to do. And so you just kind of keep perpetuating this whole issue of indecision. So one of the things that I would say about that, well, there's two main things. The first is that I think it is really, like, overall, what I think you should do is create a master plan for yourself. This is helpful with so many of these other questions that we're going to go through, because when you have a master plan for your home, what it does, it helps give you focus about what you want for your home, and you can work on that little bit by little bit. Now, when it comes to creating your master plan, of course, you want to kind of go and get inspiration from all different places, but then you need to hone it down and edit it down to your own specific project, because every home is different. Every location is different. Every reason behind why you are working on a particular project is different. You might be renovating this home and it's like an in-between home. You might be making changes, like simple changes because like maybe it's a rental and you're just sort of wanting to do some decorating things. You might be renovating an Airbnb and you just want to giving it a quick makeover, or you might be going on a big scale renovation. There's so many different reasons why you are working on a particular project, and that will guide your decisions going forward. So every home does not have to be like this, sort of like all your ideas into one place. Like, I'm a big believer that you really want to simplify the decision-making process. And I can't remember what episode it is, but I have actually created a podcast episode on this and how important it is to limit your choices. Because when you try and put all your ideas and all your like greatest dreams and hopes into one home, you paralyze yourself with indecision because you're making it something bigger than what it needs to be. one of the things that I do with styling and when I'm working on interiors and interior design projects is that I really get clear on what this project is about. I basically create a brief for myself. So I kind of get ideas about, what it might be in terms of, just general inspiration. What's really resonating with me right now? What am I loving? What's exciting me? Like really follow your heart. So you kind of pull in all those different inspiration images, but then you've got to relate it to your particular project. So on my recent studio renovation, what I had to do then for that was I had to sort of think, okay, well, I'm obviously limited by the size. It's about 50 square meters. So I have to really consider that. I had to think about, well, why am I doing this renovation? Why am I designing the space? What do I want to achieve with it? Well, I've actually got many reasons, but they really helped guide my process. So I really wanted to show what was possible in terms of interiors and creating a space that was beautiful and considered and sustainable and embracing healthy principles. So they were some of the things that were really guiding my decision making. I also wanted to make it a space that I could photograph the products for my shop Imprint House. So I wanted to create a beautiful backdrop, but I also wanted to create a space that we could use as a family or that we could put on Airbnb. So these really guided my decision making. And because I had a clear idea of why I was doing this project, it really then helped with that decision making. And then I had to kind of contain it. So we're living on a property, we're not living beside the beach. So I have to respond to, my environment. I designed the windows because there's a beautiful mango tree. So I considered not just like the general environment in the sense that I'm on a country property, but also what am I looking out onto? What do I want to capture? How do I want to create privacy? All these things really come into your decision-making process, and you need to think about these factors when you're designing your spaces. So I think to really limit your choices is incredibly powerful and important when you're designing anything, because it just can't be everything. And I think that we kind of invest so much, and it's not to say it can't be beautiful or you can't love it, but I just don't think you should try and put all your ideas into one space. So that's something to think about in terms of decision making. So the other thing is defining style. So it was all relating to this question of your own personal style and what you should do about that. So someone said about deciding on a style, making decisions and defining style, sticking to a style. There's so many beautiful interiors out there. So again, this is something that I have kind of touched on with my course, the Styling Masterclass, but of course it can apply to when you're designing your home or decorating it, or you're working on kind of almost like any project. You really need to think about, well, what is your style? What makes you unique? What's your DNA? And I love that term because on the most recent podcast, Elise from Maison Balzac, she sort of spoke about her brand's DNA. And of course, our own style is so personal to us. Like everybody has a different style, but it's really kind of getting in tune with that. So I'm just going to see if I can share this image with you. Oops, I don't know if I can share it. Oh, there we go. All right, so this is something that I shared with the students in the Styling Masterclass. So I'm a big believer that your style is basically 3 elements. It's your personal story combined with your feelings, which is your emotional reaction to what you see, and also your values, what's most important to you. And so what I kind of mean about this, and something that you might want to think about in terms of your own personal style, is that, of course, our story, we have all lived different lives. So our style is really going to be different because we've lived in different countries, we've had different parents, we've met different people on our own personal journeys, we've traveled to different countries. All those different experiences inform our own personal story. So that is part of our style. And then our feelings is how we emotionally connect to things, because we all have a different emotional reaction to things that we see. So for example, one of the things that I was sort of telling my students is that, like, for me, well, for my mum, for example, my mum, she grew up in communist Poland, and so for her, she really doesn't like anything that's rustic, because to her it looks poor, and she doesn't want to have a home that makes her feel that way. And when I actually had somebody come to my shop, Imprint House, who was also Polish, much younger than my mum, and she said, like, this is the old Polish style, and that's why my mum doesn't like the kind of interiors that I like, because to her it reminds her of communist Poland, basically. So my mum likes things that are more ornate, that they're pretty and colourful. So as you can see, myself and my mum are very different in terms of our own personal style, but we have our own personal reaction to things, whereas I'm the opposite. I don't like things that are busy or cluttered, and so it's about how I respond, but think about how you respond to the things that you see, because we all have a different emotional response to the things that we see. The third thing that I believe makes up our style is our values. And these are the things that are really important to us, because we all place a different value on different things in our lives. Now, someone's just said, my style has changed to a more relaxed style now that I have a busier life. And that is actually something that I found with my own personal style. And your style can adapt and change over the years. But to give you an example with that, when I had children, and as my life got busy and busier having children, I actually wanted my home to be simpler and simpler, because I had so much going on in my life with my children that I wanted to simplify my life. I didn't want color anymore. That's when I actually went very neutral with my interiors, because I've just found that I was, again, being in tune to my emotional reaction to my spaces, and that was really important to me. So think about, what you value, but it can also be other things. It could be that, you really value things that are handcrafted or handmade, or you really value vintage pieces that have got a previous story, or you might really value, some people really value like engineering and like modern product design and how things can be made in that way, the sort of the ingenuity of products, or people value humor, or, we all value different things, and really kind of tap into what you value. So these three elements basically define your style. They are, and that's why we all have different styles. So the more that you get in tune with that, then the more you have a greater understanding going forward. So anyway, I thought that might be helpful, and now I've got to work out how on earth I get rid of this image. Oops, no, cancel, sorry. Okay, I don't know, we might be stuck with this image because I can't work out how to get rid of this. I can't remember, it's been a while since I've done one of these. Okay, so anyway, we'll go on to budget. So this again was something that came up quite a bit, which was money, doing it all on a budget when pieces I love are much pricier, affordability, budget, lack of finances, money, budget, money. So what I would say about this is, don't let your budget hold you back from creating a home that you love. There are always workarounds. There are always solutions. You just have to have a clear sense of your priorities and know when to spend and when to save. Now, for me, I really believe that there are things that you, of course, like any project, it doesn't matter how much money you've got or how little money you have, you've always got to make decisions in terms of what you're going to prioritize, in terms of how you're going to spend your money. And what I would suggest to you is that there are definitely some things that I think are worthwhile spending your money on, and there are other things that I think you can make savings on. Of course, every project is going to be different, and these are just some of the things. Now, just in terms of, say, furniture, I'm actually a believer that things like dining tables, a lot of furniture, you can buy really good quality, reasonably inexpensive furniture. That's like a dining table, even chairs. Like I've got the chairs that currently on my dining table I got on Gumtree. I got a set of 4 for $200. They're Eames chairs. Like I think that's really good value. You can get classic bentwood chairs that are reasonably inexpensive. you can definitely get, like old tables on Gumtree and Facebook Marketplace and places like that. They are some of the things that I think you can definitely make savings on. I would suggest, though, things such as hardware and things that you touch. You don't want to have things that you touch feel cheap or synthetic. And also those things are the ones that really, they need to be durable. So door hardware and window hardware, I think it's actually really important to buy the best that you can, to not go super cheap on those things, because I think that you often see that. I would also suggest with lighting that I always prioritize buying good lighting. Now, having said that, you can buy really good vintage lighting on places like Etsy. You would be amazed at the lighting that you can buy on Etsy that's really great, and I would definitely look there. And it's sometimes also being clever as well. So we're actually about to introduce some beautiful linen pendants into Imprint House, and they're reasonably inexpensive, but they create a sense of volume and mass, but they're made of the classic materials. So never go for cheap synthetic materials. Always go for sort of those natural materials like cotton or linen, because it really does stand the test of time. It is much more timeless. Okay, someone's asking about tapware. Tapware is actually another one of those things that I would say don't go cheap. You will, and I've heard this from people, because again, I've interviewed many people, been into many people's homes, and even just recently, a friend was telling me that they got an expensive tap in their kitchen, and they went, because of budget, they sort of went for a cheaper tap in the bathroom, and they had so many problems. They had to call in the plumber. It had to get fixed. When you get cheap tapware, often you end up paying the price down the line, and it's really one of those things that I think you're better off getting the best that you can with the money that you've got, rather than going cheap, because it just, calling plumbers and electricians, it really does, that ends up costing you more than what you would have if you got upgraded to a more expensive tap. So you mentioned about the linen pendants. Yeah, they'll be going online maybe next week or the week after. So just keep an eye out on Imprint House. So yeah, there's some of the things that I would really say to keep in mind in terms of your budget. And I also think that don't think of your budget, or if you don't have a lot of money, as an impediment, because I actually think that when you have to work within a budget, it forces you to get really creative, and those times can actually result in the best design solutions. This was something that happened at my previous home with a funny little area. It was really odd, next to the fridge, and it had louver doors, and we had nowhere to kind of put our pantry items. So I decided to take off the louver doors because I felt like they looked odd. And then we painted, because I did consider, should I paint them? And I thought, no, we're just going to take them off, paint the shelves. So we painted the shelves, and basically I put all the storage jars, like pantry jars, on there, and that has been my most viral image. It's gone crazy all around the world. Even the other day I was asked by, I think it's Domino magazine, I'm pretty sure, because somebody else asked me as well. It's either by My Domain or Domino, and then the other one asked my most recent pantry image they're going to put it online. So it's still to this day, and that was about 4 years ago, and I had to get really creative with that space because it was an awkward area. And I find this time and time again is those areas that sometimes really force you to kind of dig deep in terms of your creativity and the solutions that you might come up with. They often be the spaces that resonate the most with people because they're unique. You're not just copying somebody else's look. So I really encourage you to think of having a budget and that restriction as an asset in many ways. All right, now we were going to go on to sourcing. So these were some of the questions that came up in terms of areas that people were struggling with. So kitchen splashbacks, selecting tiles for bathrooms, finding the right furnishings, finding the right couch, making the big, expensive, long-lasting, permanent decisions like windows and doors, for example. When buying interior pieces, how to ensure bits and pieces actually go together, vases, colors, furniture. Making long-lasting style choices, flooring, carpet, sisal, real timber, and what is, I don't know, this question was funny, what is the fake with fake timber? And she said quarter rounds. I haven't seen anything to do with quarter rounds, but anyway, so how to resolve flooring issues. So all these questions basically relate to sourcing. So as I mentioned earlier, the first thing that I would suggest to you is, I got it back. So now I've got the other one in there. I don't know how to get rid of that. Anyway, at least that's maybe a little bit better. Maybe I need to move a little bit this way. So in terms of sourcing, what I would suggest, so annoying that thing right there. But anyway, if anyone knows how I can get rid of that, just type it in the comments because I don't want to start Googling right now. So as I said, the first thing is to create your vision board, your overall master plan of what you want it to look like. And then I encourage you to go then room by room and then distill it within those values and the style that you've talked about, and you've and the limitations in terms of your location and your budget and some of those other things that we've spoken about. So then, and your why, that's really important. So then you need to narrow all that down in relation to what your sourcing and your selections for room by room. And so this is where I do is that I suggest that you just have to start somewhere. So we talk about kitchen splashbacks. So then get your inspiration images for that and think about what do you want to create? Do you want to create something that is timeless? Are you looking for something that you want to flip? All of these things kind of come back to your why and what you're trying to create. Personally, I really believe that, you want to find that good balance between things that are functional and timeless, because you don't want to be replacing things all the time, and particularly those feature areas. I really avoid things that are on trend in terms of tiles. I just think that can be really fraught and it's a really expensive thing to change. So I would be, if you want to kind of add pattern or something else, then introduce it in some other way. Even if you want to kind of go I don't think you put a pattern in a pendant, but find something else that you can introduce it in, or a vase or whatever it is, because you don't want to be changing your kitchen splashbacks. Really go timeless with those things. And when you do, look on your research and look at things that are 10 years old. And again, this is something that I was doing when I was working my book, This Is Home. I was actually I went through really, really old books that I had and really old magazines and looking from 10, 15 years ago. And I could see the homes where the things were still, I was like, oh wow, look, there's those vintage Chinese elm stools 15 years ago. They never go out of style. They're always there. You would see the same with the Moroccan Beni-Arain rugs. And sure, they might have times when they're slightly more popular or less popular, but they never completely go out of style. They never feel what were you thinking of? So I always think you want to go timeless with those things, but of course you want to be functional, and you need to think about the needs of your family and the people who are living in your own home as well. So then you really want to then create a selection of every room, and you want to look at the available options, and then think about do I really love it? Why am I choosing this piece? Because it's so easy to get swayed because somebody else has it, or you've seen it on Instagram or Pinterest or wherever. But really kind of tap into do you love it? Does it work with the rest of the space? And how does it work within the project overall? So, these are some of the questions that you need to ask yourself. So I'm not going to, obviously I can't say for everybody's particular project, because it's all going to be different, but these are some of the questions that you really need to ask yourself. And I encourage you to look back at some of your past homes. And again, this is something that I did when I moved from the city to the country, is I was going through the things that I still loved. And even to this day, I've got lighting, I've got textiles that I have had for 15, 20 years and I still love them. Like my bentwood chairs are like at least 15 years old, if not longer. I've got some black ones in my office and I still love them. Like I would still buy them today. So look at the pieces that you still love in your home, that you've loved, you've had the longest. Like look at those and also pay attention to the things that you look back on and you think, oh, like why did I have that? Because perhaps in that moment you were actually swayed by other people's style or what they had in their homes. So really kind of pay attention to that. And, you know, I think that's a really important kind of tool or trick that you can do, is just really pay attention to what worked in the past and what didn't work so that you can see your way forward. So there were quite a few questions about color as well. So don't know how to introduce color, colors, whether a specific cushion, etc. will go with everything else in the space, diversity in color tones. I'm so monochrome. Somebody else said, I'd love to know your advice on combining multiple shades, types of timber in the one space cohesively. Can it be done? And if so, how? How to pick a calm wall color for my kids' room that flows with the rest of my calm white walled, neutral yet eclectic home. I would like to paint the walls something other than white and not sure if I could just do an accent wall or go all out. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. So as I mentioned before, I'm a big believer in the power of limiting choices, and you don't want to have a million different colors in your home. I do think that the overall look and aesthetic is stronger when there's a limited color palette. I really believe that you should look within your own wardrobe and have a look at the clothes that you wear and what colors you gravitate towards, and really, again, like, do an audit. Pay attention to the things that you feel really good in. Like, what are the clothes that you feel amazing in? And you know, there will probably be some other clothes that you've got in your kind of wardrobe whereby you kind of think like, oh, there's something, like it doesn't feel right in some way, or when you wear it, it doesn't really feel like you. Pay attention to that. Like, is it the colors? Is it the style? And even I'm a great believer that, like, fashion, you know, fashion style, the clothes that you wear really says a lot about the types of homes that you like to create as well. And it can provide great clues to you because everything is cut slightly differently. So some things might be a little bit more simple in style, some things might be a bit more feminine, some things might be a little bit more graphic almost, and really pay attention to the style of things that really you love and resonate with you. And like, I mean, this dress here, there's up close, there's like tiny little hand stitched detailing. Like, I love when you can see the sort of the handcrafted and the, you know, the elements that something has been made, and that's what I like in my interiors. But as you can see, like, it's not just all one color. I do like a little bit of detailing things. So that's something that I actually find is true within my own home as well. But I don't like it to be overboard. And I don't like things that overpower me. And, you know, like, you really feel like the dress is wearing you, not you're wearing the dress or whatever it is. So, and it's the same in my home. Like, I feel like I want the home to, like, for me to be in the home, not the home dictating who I am, kind of thing. So it's really a great clue as to your own personal style, but also the colors and the palette. And honestly, like, if I kind of go, like, every now and then I sort of try and mix something else in, but when I do, it just never works, and I actually just end up kind of donating it to somebody else. So really look at your palette and the things that you gravitate to, and that's what will feel good within your own home. And notice as well, like, the tones and the colors. And I'm sure that you put things together all the time. Like, if I was to wear a jacket, then, you know, what tone or what colors would I wear with this dress? Well, it's the same when you're putting together cushions on your sofa. Like, you got to think about, you know, it's like you're dressing your sofa the way that you would dress yourself. Like, think about the tones and the colors that work together in that way. I generally think, I mean, personally myself, I really love things that are like more smudgy and so like those sludgy colors, and I think that for me they feel very calming. But you got to think about, well, what resonates with you in a space. Again, like all those things, this thing that I can't get rid of.
you know, really think about that, like in terms of how colors make you feel, and follow that, but contain it. You don't want to have a million colors. I think sticking to like 3 to 5 colors within a home, you really want to do that. And also think about, like, again, your surrounding environment. And this is something that I found very much with my last home, and you want to think about with your own home as well, is that what's happening outside the windows. And my last home, it was like greenery everywhere, and it's pretty much the same thing here as well. So that's why my interiors are so neutral, because I've got so much busyness going on outside. Whereas when I was in the city, we were in a terrace, you know, we had like small Victorian windows, and so we couldn't really even see much outside. And if anything, we didn't want to, you know, we wanted to create a sort of sanctuary inside our home. And so then I used much more color. I had like antique gold on the ceiling. I had, you know, black walls in my hallway and gray walls in my living room. So I embraced color much more then. It was still muted tones, but because we didn't have what was happening outside. So you really need to think about that. And that was something, actually, I had a Zoom meeting with some of my students in the styling masterclass earlier today, and it was an outside shot, and there was all this greenery, but she had like lots of blues, and I just didn't feel that the blues were working well with all the green that was happening outside. So you really need to respond to your surrounding environment. Sorry, I'm getting very excited about this topic. So yeah, I would really think about that. In terms of that specific question about like the wall color for the children's bedroom, I think you can do it like, go like a deep like olive color, or go like a really sludgy gray, or like a sludgy like cedar color, or, you know, whatever resonates with you, like feel. And the thing with paint is you can always change it. Like it's one of the easiest things to change in your home. I love experimenting with color in that sense. Like when I was in my city home, and even just painting furniture, like it's something that I've always done. I actually, one of my first jobs was at a paint store when I was at uni, and that was my like part-time job. I was always painting stuff. So I love working with paint and color, and painting things to transform them. And I really believe in the power of paint. So paint it, you can always change it. It's one of the most easiest and like inexpensive things to change in your own home. How are we going for time? 10 minutes? Oh, actually I started a little bit late because I couldn't work out how to start it. So what else have we got? There are quite a lot of questions as well about having a consistent theme style in the house. Consistency, I buy what I like and it really seems to work together. Cohesive aesthetic, I feel I like so many different things. Making everything cohesive and work together, creating a cohesive look in an open layout home. So again, this is where you need to create your vision board, and then get the room mood boards, and then get that all to tie back into the overall vision of the space. So this is the master plan that you need to create for your home. And the great thing about creating a master plan is that I'm a big believer that create it like at the start of your project, and you don't have to execute everything all at once. If budget is a consideration for you, and it's something that you're going to work away at, then just do little bit by little bit, but at least you're not doubling up on work, which can actually be really expensive as well. And it really then helps, like if you see something spontaneously, like you see a pendant or whatever it is, then you can think, oh yeah, that kind of works in the vision that I have of this house. So when you create a master plan, it really helps you with those decisions that you make along the way, and can kind of guide your whole process. Estia says, how do you balance white paint or tones of it in darker and lighter areas of your home? I know that Estia is in the Styling Masterclass, and I've been asked this question several times, and as I said previously, but obviously many of you probably aren't in the Styling Masterclass. What you really need to do is you need to respond to the light that you get in different areas of your home. So if you have got, for instance, in Australia, I think Estia is in Europe somewhere, I can't remember, I think it's Germany or France. So if you've got a north facing in Australia or south facing in the northern hemisphere, like living area, and you're getting flooded light, then obviously the type of white that you're going to use or the type of color that you're going to use in that part of your home will be different to if you've got a room where it's very dark and maybe it doesn't get a lot of light. So I would think about and I do think that when you've got those darker rooms that you can go for warmer tones, but you've really got to look at as well, like, again, this whole idea, which I think people don't think about enough, what is happening outside, what colors are being reflected back into your home. When I was in the city home, we had there's this building next door to us, and it was like a salmon color, and that reflected into our kitchen, this salmon color. And whereas here it's obviously all this greenery, it really reflects into our room. So you need to think about the colors that are coming in from outside as well as the aspect as well. And a good tip is to just kind of get timber boards, and you want them to be a reasonably decent size, and paint those on and move them around to different areas of your home, and also notice the light at different times of day. It's so important because it really does change, and consider that as well. So but yeah, like I said, this idea of if you want your home to be consistent and have a cohesive look, you really need to create a master plan for your home. Balance, again, another thing that came up a lot. The balance between design and organic evolution. Sorry, I'm trying to move this, and then I just see that I have got I've got to move that, and I still haven't worked. Is that gonna? Oh no, sorry, I can't get rid of it. I thought I could. I was going to try and trick it. I think this too. Sorry, let me try. I don't know. No, that's not going to work. All right, I just let it go. Let it go, Natalie. Okay, balance. The balance between design and organic evolution, knowing what to remove. Minimal is always better. Trying to combine styles with it looking a bit messy. Having too many heroes. Space, keeping it simple. Scale, placement, and balance. Loving so many things but trying to be minimal. Balance between clean lines and the need for storage and stuff. Preferring a minimalist look but having so many photos I want displayed. So this is all about getting the right balance in your home. And again, it kind of ties in with this idea that you really want to have a clear idea about what this project is about, what this home is about for you. Is it your forever home? Is it a flip home? Is it an Airbnb? Is it something that you're going to rent out? Is it a rental for you? What is this home? Why are you wanting to make changes to it? How do you live? Really focus on how you live as well, because somebody who works like a 9-to-5 job in the city, and how they live and how they use their home is going to be very different to somebody who it works from home or is a stay-at-home mum. You're going to have different needs, and you really need to address that with your design and the functionality and the materials you choose and how you design the space. So you really need to tap into those questions, and getting that balance right between minimal and space and all of those different elements. It really is going to come down as well to how you want to feel in your space and what emotion you want to feel in your space. So obviously, if you want to feel calm, then you really need to strip it back. But some people, they want to entertain, they want it to be, a beautiful place that they can invite friends over, and, maybe they want to elevate it in some way. So you really need to tap into what it is you're trying to, sorry, Estia, UK, thank you, sorry. But you really want to tap into that, and that's so important. Which brings us nicely into basically spatial design and functional design. So there were so many questions about furniture and floor plans, deciding if new furniture will fit in the interior. Design pieces are amazing but so expensive. Furniture placement in a room, furniture placement when all the walls have windows, arranging furniture, making cozy corners and more functional spaces in a big open space. Using the space that I need shelves, suitable furniture for the space, proportion-wise, putting things on the walls. I painted the wall 2 years ago and they're still empty. Visioning the space and helping the client use it in the best way. Furniture proportions, please. And then there was also some questions in relation to scale proportion, visualizing the size of something, knowing whether it will fit the space, scale. So there are a few ways that you can approach this, but Obviously, every single room has its own limitations. It's got its own dimensions, and you've got to work to that particular room. Every room has a different ceiling height, well, from one room to another, but also within one home to another. Different rooms have windows, like the window in front of me. A few people said about rooms where they've got lots of windows. That was certainly the case at my last house, and you perhaps want to orientate the furniture towards the window. And these are the considerations that you need to think about. So when I'm working out furniture plans, to be honest, I'm actually quite instinctual about it, because I've just done it. I've lived in about 20 different homes, and I've styled so many homes and helped design so many homes. So it really is quite instinctual for me in terms of that. But obviously, when you're getting very specific about specifying things, particularly if it's a sight unseen or whatever, then you want to get the dimensions of the room and create furniture to scale within the space. So obviously go through that sourcing process that we've talked about, the room by room mood boards. That's important. But then you need to narrow it down. You might find 3 sofas, but maybe they're all slightly different, and you have to work out, well, which is the one that's going to work in the space. And you need to think about the depth of the sofa as well as the width. So there's the furniture placement in terms of obviously where the sofa is going to go, where the coffee table, if you're going to have occasional chairs. I'm a big believer, you really want to buy the pieces that you love and then see if you can get them to work in the space in some way, and start with the most important pieces. So obviously in the living room, you're going to start with your sofa. So you want to choose that piece first and get that right. So find the pieces that you really love, and then obviously you got to work out dimension wise, are they going to work in that space, and then work around it that way. So that's what I always do. You start with the dining table. Is that going to work? You want to ensure that you've got enough space for the chairs to pull out on either side. You need to be practical as well as beautiful, and there's lots of considerations that need to go into that, but start with those key pieces of furniture first. And also, I just wanted to say as well, in terms of furniture, you also want to think about, like I mentioned, if objects are, if you've got low ceilings or it's a small room, then you don't want to have, and this was something that when I was working at Real Living magazine, we'd get people sending in images of their homes all the time there's a page called Decorating Dilemma. And people would send in all the time these really boxy sofas in small rooms. If you've got a small room, you don't want to have a boxy sofa. You might you need to think about getting a sense of air or spaciousness, maybe some type of leg on the sofa, so that it doesn't feel like it overwhelms the space, and be realistic about the space that you've got. So that is something that I would really suggest if you're designing small spaces as well. All right, so then there were other questions that came in. I'm kind of getting very close to the end, but hopefully I'll be able to get this in time. So there were questions about family and functional design. So getting my husband to agree to all my random ideas, that my kids leave memories on the beautiful, I think it was furniture, so I guess maybe they draw on it, I'm not sure. My partner makes everything dirty or used very quickly, can't keep anything nice. Decorating a rental and keeping the kitchen bench uncluttered with kids and day-to-day admin. My husband, my biggest trouble is keeping things practical, young, family-friendly and effortlessly styled, i.e. nice things that can be reached but not broken, e.g. coffee table styling, cushions that are hardy and nice as they rarely stay on the couch, and keeping dumping areas looking good. So obviously, again, this comes back to your original why and, what's happening with your particular project and the needs of your project. So if you're, you might be designing a house just for you, or you might have a family and you have to think about your husband or your partner or your wife or your children or whoever else lives there and how they live, because you've got to think about the functionality of the space so that it makes it easy for yourself, particularly if you are more likely to be one of the primary people who is going to be maintaining this home in terms of the way it looks and functions. You really need to keep this into consideration. So this really comes down to the materials that you source within a space and how durable they are. Do you want a, you know, a timber table that's got a veneer that if you put a hot cup on it is going to leave a, you know, a stain, or even if it's waxed or whatever? Like, is that something that's important to you or not important to you, which gets back to your values, like this thing that I can't get rid of. You know, these things are, you know, they're important for you to think about in terms of the durability of a product. If you've got an Airbnb, you really might want to think about then the materials that you have in the space. How easy do they get dirty? You know, like if you've got a particular type of grout, like is it going to get lots of mold in between it, you know, for instance? Or, you know, you've got to think about the functionality of a space. Sorry, just got a little thing pop up. So these are some of the things that you need to think about when you're designing, and think about the other people in your family. This idea of husbands who, it sometimes comes up, of like husbands who have a very different style. I mean, obviously you've got to find a middle ground, and I do believe it kind of comes down to sometimes as well, like who is the person who is using the space the most, who is at home the most, who is maintaining the home the most. Like, I think that if you are, then you do have more weight in the conversation. But certainly, you know, I think that men often like to have a space that they feel is their own. I know that my husband has that, and he feels like he doesn't have much of that at the moment. So he's got his little work shed that he's slowly kind of been working on. So, you know, think about those spaces where other people feel like they can have ownership of it. And that is something that I do with my children. Like, I let them have, I kind of set the foundations for their bedroom, but I let them have freedom within those spaces as well. So, you know, it's important for people to feel like they're connected to their home as well. And then there were sort of questions relating to like decorating, the curating, the finishing touches. So decorating, love a minimal, neutral home. I've had a hard time decorating as I don't like to keep a lot of things around. Filling my large walls in a minimal way is very difficult for me. I want to keep it classy without overdoing it. Curtains, so many images of styled rooms have no curtains or window treatments. Love to get some ideas. And how to create a cohesive, layered, textured, comfortable living space. What are the key elements of things to remember? My coffee tables are too small. I have bits that are too small. I'm about to embark on a revamp of both spaces, and I want to get it right. And again, finishing touches that will tie everything together. Feeling pressure to decorate all the areas of my home. How to style bookshelves, curating. And then I find I like things and I can't figure out how to put them together. So this is, you know, all about this idea of bringing the whole look together. And again, like, get that master plan, get the rooms as well. And then I think you know, you need to again like touch back in with your emotions and how you want to feel in this space, and that can be different for every home, and it can be different for different rooms in your home as well. And I think it's important to realize that. So for me, in my home, I actually like the fact that I have pretty much nothing. I don't have anything on my bedroom walls. I actually, right now in my life, I like the simplicity of that. And it was the same in my living room. I had lots of artworks, and I thought, I actually don't want to put them up. Like, I don't want to, it felt so beautiful and calm and simple that I didn't want that. However, I don't mind having artworks in the hallway. I don't mind having them in my office because that's a very creative zone for me. So think about, for you, if you've got, and this kind of ties back into this balance idea that we were sort of talking about earlier. But think about the areas that, you know, how you want to feel in different areas of your home. And it doesn't have to be like the whole home is white or the whole home is, you know, got lots of stuff everywhere. But think about getting the balance right between the areas where you want to be, you know, maybe more creative and inspired, or, you know, sort of stimulated in terms of visually stimulated, or whether you want to keep it simple, neutral, calm, but really respond to how you want to feel in the space. And really, I think that is, we know deep down inside, and this is probably a good way to end, and I don't know if I'm going to get suddenly cut off, but we know deep inside how we want to feel. Is actually learning to listen to that voice within about what is right for us, and what is right for our home, what is right for our family, what is right for this particular project. They're the questions that you need to answer. And we know the answers, but we just have to listen. And so that's when sometimes it actually pays to sort of stop looking at all the inspiration and really focus in on what you want to achieve for your project. So that's probably a really good place to end, because I've got a feeling I'm going to get suddenly cut off. I hope that you found this helpful, and I know that I've had to kind of group them all. Please let me know if you enjoyed it and you found it helpful, and I will I hope that I can save this. When I've done these in the past, and I was able to save them, and I will add it to my newsletter, which goes out on a Friday. And thank you so much for joining me this evening, and I hope that you can all create a beautiful project and a place that you really love. All right, thanks everyone. Have a really great evening or day wherever you are in the world. And now I've got to work out how to end this, and I can't quite remember. Anyway, thanks everyone.